party for the Eastwood Oak. We've got appetizers, everybody gathering here, all the people for the Eastwood Tree. We've got Jerome and everybody partying at this to celebrate the trees here. We are here to celebrate, have a toast to the Eastwood Oak Tree and the success may it have a long life.
Words just to welcome you to Sherry Roizen's beautiful home. She's hosting this event for the Indiana Forest Alliance in this celebration of the Eastwood Middle School oak tree saving. And it is just one tree in the city, but it is a monumental tree, and it feels like a really big win. And we just, as an organization, wanted to come together and celebrate it. And so Sherry, thank you so much for opening up your home.
You're welcome. Glad to have everyone.
Yeah, and we're very appreciative to the IFA staff for helping us put this together, and Liz Pinnock for partnering, and Clark Kahlo for even bringing it to the organization's attention in terms of that the tree was at risk. And so tonight we also have a person that I have a great deal of affection for, as we as an organization have done our work. Christine Scales, who is not even my city councilor, has come over into my city council district and helped me on a number of occasions in terms of saving forest issues and tree issues, and she's a big supporter of our organization, and she is a city councilor for the people, and I just want to acknowledge that. I just think the world of her, and I wish she was my city councilor. This opportunity to introduce Jerome Delbridge. He is our Urban Forestry Preservation Director. I think I got that right.
Sounds great.
And
I'll take it.
For the Indiana Forest Alliance, and he's just going to say a few words, and then we'll let Jeff.
It's so great to see this beautiful house filled with people who care about trees and forests. Thanks so much for coming out, Sherry. Thanks for hosting us, and you were there at the beginning of this this work to save the Eastwood Burr Oak, so thanks for that. And thank you also, you have played a big role in organizing this, and of course IFA staff, they work hard, they work relentlessly to save forests, and they work quietly. You know, a lot like these forests and these trees, they just quietly do their work, and you don't notice them until you don't have them at your fingertips ready to go. So the IFA staff is amazing. Good people to work with. I wanted to ask you, so we think of forests and we have different ideas of what forests are. I was curious, as IFA starts to do more work in the city, what some of you guys think of when you think of forests, and just tell me, interactive here. So when you think of a forest, like what do you think of?
Jade.
Wildlife.
Uh-huh.
I think Julian.
Yeah.
Peace and quiet.
That's right. Yeah. And
Natural beauty.
absolutely.
Fresh air.
Good.
Fresh air.
Pure water.
Clear water. Amen.
Cooling effect.
Yes. So I think I'm always struck that forests, kind of in my head, I grew up in rural Indiana, and forests to me are these places far away, but as I moved to Indianapolis many years ago now, I was struck that we still in a city have so much forest and so much nature, and it really changed the course of how I saw my work in the world. As I started to work with trees in the city, it made me really appreciate the urban forests and forests around people are so important. I was just reading some quotes. The population in cities from 2000 to 2010, when we had our last census, urban populations grew 12%. 80% of U.S. population, people in the U.S. live in cities. And as this grows, as this population grows, our forests are going to be more and more threatened from development. We need more places for people to live and work in the city. And as that population grows, these sanctuaries, these urban forest sanctuaries become more and more important, not only for nature, but for the people who are living next to those forests. And that's why Indiana Forest Alliance does the work that we do, and we not only focus on public land, rural forest land, but we're also focused on saving these small forests, and an urban forest can even be one spectacular tree in the backyard of a middle school. And this Burr Oak that we're here to celebrate, it's a remarkable tree. As an arborist, I have to say a little bit about trees, because I love trees. So I wanted to give a few attributes. I was thinking about Burr Oaks in general, and this Burr Oak specifically. And Burr Oaks are these crazy big, they can grow really big, and they have a lot of great attributes. And I was thinking this tree could be a lesson for us on some attributes that we should aspire to have, like a Burr Oak. So they're adaptable trees. The Burr Oaks live from Canada, and their native range is from Canada all the way down through Texas into Mexico. And it's really cool. There's some Burr Oaks in Wisconsin area, and they have really tiny acorns. And then the further south, the bigger the acorn. So you can have Burr Oaks that they've adapted through this huge region, but they're still the same species. So adaptability is something that we can all learn from a Burr Oak. Resiliency. These Burr Oaks, they typically grow in really wet areas next to water, and we think of them being wetland species, but they also are so tough that you see them out in the prairies, out just west, like Illinois prairies, and even further west, and where no other tree species, very few other tree species can live, and grasses start to rule. You'll see these oak savannas, and a lot of these oak savannas are black oaks and Burr Oaks. These big trees are so adaptable to all these different climates, from wet all the time to so dry that most trees can't. If you guys, I'm sure you've seen pictures of this tree that these big, long branches that go out. They're sanctuaries for lichen. They're sanctuaries for mosses, for mammals. They'll have cavities, and they'll just keep on growing around the cavities. These cavities are homes for birds, as well as mammals, squirrels. We should all take this lesson that our lives can be a sanctuary for those around us, of many different species, a sanctuary for plants and animals and other humans, friends. They're dependable trees. So a Burr Oak, when they're living out in the savanna, they have the bark is really thick and corky on them. And it's thought that they've adapted this really thick bark, and they tend to be more corky the more west you go. They can survive a prairie fire. So prairie fires can come through and burn all the grass, and the bark on a Burr Oak is so thick that the bark provides insulation for the trees. It's just spectacular trees. They grow these acorns, the Latin name Quercus macrocarpa, meaning big fruit. They have giant big acorns. And then the common name Burr Oak, the acorn, it's really big and it has this big cap and has frilly edge on the cap. And these acorns are food for so many mammals, squirrels, and they're dependable. Every year they're going to have acorns. Some years they'll have a lot more than others. Oak trees in general are the biggest host plant for our Lepidoptera species, our moths and butterflies. There's a beautiful moth picture here. So the larvae for these moths and butterflies, Burr Oaks provide food for the most of these caterpillars. And then these caterpillars are beautiful when they're adults, but they also, their biggest function in the ecosystem is that they're food, they're the protein source for birds. So this Burr Oak not only provides the home for the birds, but also provides the food source, the primary food source. We should be dependable to those around us and support life all around us. And they're giving. They give of themselves. They give of their structure. They give of their fruit. They give to insect populations. I won't go on, I'm sure there's many more.
They provide a lot of shade.
So much shade, I mean cooling. This oak has
Cooling.
quietly been cooling student athletes
Yeah.
for generations.
Yeah,
It's
there you go.
incredible. Yes. So, with that, I wanted to share something that somebody just shared. Two things actually. First, I want to say, support like this for a tree like this, we can't predict, we can't budget when we're doing our annual budget for how much money we need as an organization for the next year. We can't predict when a tree like this or a forest tract is going to be threatened. They're constantly under threat, but it's not the case that the staff at Indiana Forest Alliance are sitting around waiting for the next forest to be threatened. The staff is continually busy doing the work that they normally do, and then when something like that happens, that work needs to be put on hold, and many more hours are spent to advocate and protect and organize communities around preservation. So fundraisers like this and annual contributions really are critical if you value having a resource in Indianapolis and in the state of Indiana to fight for all of these forests and always keeping a finger on the pulse of what's happening and fighting for these forests. I had a meeting yesterday at Newfields, formerly the Indiana Museum of Art, in their 100-acre woods area. I was trying to understand why they removed some trees, and still working with them to understand that. But one of the first things that the director of horticulture in that organization said to me was, "Thank you so much for being a part of Indiana Forest Alliance. I'm so grateful that an organization like this exists in the city who's not afraid to keep an eye out on all of our public forests and all of our private forests throughout the entire state, and who is not afraid to stand up and speak up even when it's politically challenging and even when it's tough to spend the time. Thank you." And this was while I was there to give them a little bit of a hard time on some work that they were doing and really try to understand their process. But as I was there, standing up for the forest that they privately owned, they were grateful to Forest Alliance, and it's because of donors just like you and donors throughout the state and members of this organization that we're all able to advocate and fight the good fight and stand up even when it's difficult for these trees.
Before you conclude, I wanted to also recognize Ryan Dorman, who is here with a video. I just met Ryan, and he told me that he's never considered being an activist in his life, but he was, I remember him because he created a video months ago that went viral. It was very powerful, and spoke so well before the Metropolitan School District in Washington Township at their board meeting. So welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. Well, it was great to be a part of, like, everybody, rally a community organizing to be a part of something like this, and you never know. And something brought me here, and I'm just proud to be a part of it. And thank you for everybody. And so thank you. I just want to help you.
Well, I just found out, Ryan just shared a story, the big picture that the Indy Star ran of the tree. So this all happened when the tree had leaves, when it was dormant, when the leaves were off. So we all went out and tried to get these beautiful, stunning photos of the tree. And it is still a stunning tree, but it would be more powerful if it had leaves. Well, Ryan, last year, right, you were just telling me.
Yeah. So go ahead. I mean, you can tell the story. I don't want to.
I'll tell your story for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Ryan was out playing tennis. He's a state champion at
North Central.
North Central state champion in tennis. And he was out playing tennis next to this tree. And you said you were just drawn to this tree and drawn to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
You snapped a photo last summer and just had it, and then it became under threat. And I'm sure you've been under that tree for 30 years, 20 years. Right?
Yeah. And
but-
thank you for Google Photo Save, where it just automatically saves your picture. And it just, I dug way deep, and I was like, I got a picture of that tree somewhere, and it came up, and the tree, that picture just went, you know, it was Indianapolis Star and everything. So it just makes a lot of great, you know, it just shows you how you can win an activist, be an activist and win by rallying community support and being, you know, leadership like yourself and everybody coming together to celebrate this. So thank you. You know, it's just good luck. I mean, we'll keep continuing this. So I'll thank you for what you did. And it was just a monumental.
And now if we could have a word or two from our executive director.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm not sure what else there is left to say. I think Jerome did such a good job. He is a hell of an arborist too. I mean, if you, well, you know, arborists have to cut trees down. They have to, and a lot of them in the city, that's more their focus is cutting them down. But if you bring Jerome in, you're going to have him talking to you about, you know, this is what this tree needs to become healthy again. And you know that when he tells you a tree has got to go, that you got a man who loves trees to his core telling you that. So you can trust him that, well, this isn't somebody who shows up and says, oh, you know, your tree has ants, you need to get rid of it. And there's a lot of those firms all over the city. So if you want somebody who's honestly going to look at your trees and give you, you know, advice based on, you know, loving your trees, he's your guy. I don't want to draw too much business to him that way because we've got a lot of work. Jerome, in addition to being our guy on call, our urban forest preservation director, he's not our urban forestry preservation. He's
Sorry,
our urban
Jeff.
forestry. But anyway, he like last week, he helped the Metropolitan Development Commission decide to stand by, to reject a proposal to tear down 3 acres of forest over in Crooked Creek. We convinced the DMD to stand by its original, the Henry County Comp Plan and reject the Haverstick development. Jerome put a lot of that testimony together, or helped me put it together fairly quickly. He was a leader in the Crown Hill effort. You know, we lost the Haverstick Woods, the front of it, but the case is still going that we filed, and the case is about holding the city council accountable to playing politics with its decision-making process and throwing out a sound decision based on a technical error that you can't operate government with if they're going to go back and overturn their own certifications every time a wealthy developer wants them to find, you know, has a $400 an hour attorney scouring the decision to find out what decimal point was wrong in the decision so they can go back and rehear the decision. We think the courts will throw that decision out, and then the soccer team owner is going to have it out with the city over who has to pay for his 5-story building he's built down there based on an illegal decision. But we're at least going to go as far as we can. We're not going to file that court decision the way we did and then back off once they just tear the woods down. We're going to see it through. So these things that Jerome does, and like that case, and the work we do around the state, they cost money, and we're the only group. I'm not going to say the other groups aren't darn good at what they're doing, but they're not focused on forest preservation as their singular objective, and they don't put the intensity into it that we do. They've got other good parts of the environmental struggle they're working on and need to be addressed. So, but if you want to have an organization that is working 24/7 on the forest preservation cause in Indiana, everything from putting together the science for why these forests need to be allowed to operate and change with the changing climate, and not put in a straitjacket as the Purdue foresters and even people in some of the environmental groups like the Nature Conservancy want to do now. If you want an organization that's going to stand up to that and try to get independent scientists to render opinions about why these forests are so important, that's going to put together the economic case also for why these forest preservation is a winner for local communities and for the state in terms of drawing tourism dollars here. And that's going to be in the State House, convincing Republicans to vote for forest preservation. And we're getting there. We've got 42 of the House members voted this time to set aside 10% of the state forest. Back when we started, we couldn't even get a hearing or any opportunity for a vote. And so last year we got 33. This year we bumped it up to 42, or 35, excuse me. We bumped it up to 42. Next year, after a series of more meetings that we're going to arrange between citizens in the countryside around these state forests and Republican legislators, we're going to bump it closer. And we're just going to keep coming back. We're going to fight like lions, and we're never giving up. And if you want an organization that's going to work that way, that's going to work at trying to change the political culture in the State House when you have super majorities the way they are, or that's going to work in the city of Indianapolis to develop, a forest preservation, a proactive forest preservation program. I mean, Jerome's not just fighting these fights when they come up. He's working. He's got a task force of experts that are putting together a scoring matrix for all of the forest plots in this city outside of the current city park system and Fort Benjamin Harrison State Park, so that we can come up with a reasoned ranking for the top 20 to 30 forests that we want to save. We can do outreach to the communities around them, see if the public support is there to save them, and come back to the mayor with a plan for it, and also a plan for how to pay for it. We're going to do all of that work, and this costs, it really does cost money. The Indianapolis forest preservation work we're doing is about $100,000 a year, part of IFA now, and we've got these other 4 parts that are about that much or more. So we really need resources. We want to keep going, and we want to ask you to give regularly, give more regularly, and then give more, but give what you can. And we just appreciate what you've done in helping to save that oak. We appreciate what Christine Scales did last year, standing up against the tide when the
Was I
city
the
council.
only one? I think I was the only vote.
Well, it was 3 votes.
Was 3,
but
okay.
the other 2 voted the way they did because of you. But, yeah, so it takes a lot of courage sometimes to do this work, and it seems pointless. When we started this Crown Hill thing, people said, "You are crazy. That the environmental assessments on this thing are a year old. The property has switched hands. You can't stop this at this point. You're way past the public input period." And look at what happened. We saved that forest. But it's because we just didn't give up, and we kept a fighting spirit about it. We don't ever disrespect people or our opponents. But you've got to have that fighting spirit and be tenacious about it and serious about it, and convince people that you are serious about it. So anyway, thank you for coming, and eat up. There's some great food here. I intend to eat some of it.
We have one more introduction. Clark Kahlo, who is just an extraordinary activist and jewel of, is going to introduce Christina Helbershore, our author, who, speaking of growing courageous children, has written a book, and we'd love for you to go over and see her, but Clark wants to introduce her.
Christina will speak with us in just a minute. I wanted to give her a little intro. Her new book, hot off the press, is Secret of the Troublemakers. Not that this group is particularly troublemaking oriented. It's basically geared for children. It's very clever, poetic. She's going to speak to it, maybe read an excerpt here in a moment. I'm going to be delighted to add this to my personal library collection at home. I have a number of green titles, environmental titles, some of which are sort of on the troublemaker line. For instance, starting with the more foundational, here's one, Against the Machine by Nicholas Fox. Letters to a Young Contrarian by Christopher Hitchens. Sierra Club President, Act Now, Apologize Later. And Canadian Christopher DiCarlo, How to Become a Really Good Pain in the Ass. A critical thinker's guide to asking the right questions. Christina's book, I think, is a little more tempered than some of these, but we're so delighted to have her. I first met her back in about 1997, so that would be maybe 21 years ago. We were contesting a commercial retail development at 96 and Allisonville Road, and I remember speaking to the environmental club at North Central High School that she founded, and her dad at the time was a math teacher at North Central. So anyway, I haven't seen her for 20-some years, and we're just so delighted to have you, Christina. So can you come up and just maybe tell us a little bit about your background?
This is funny. Jerome, you're a climate camp dad. I was the co-founder of the climate camp with Jim Poyser, and so we run in very similar circles around here. And so this was a book that I created because my whole life I've been a troublemaker, but it always feels... It was always hard to go against the grain when you believe in something passionately, like saving forests and standing up for people who are, in danger. And so I wanted to give kids a tool to deal with that friction and be proud of being troublemakers, being proud of standing up for the issues that they care deeply about. And there's a line in here that troublemakers stand up for people. They say stop when a forest or an animal is in danger. And so you guys are my people. This is the kind of work that I've been passionate about for my whole life, and I continue to work for inspiring others and inspiring, hopefully, getting more and more kids out to your events and your rallies. And so I'm so appreciative of the work that you all do, and I'm really grateful to be part of this event, and look forward to continuing to support this work. Thank you.
Bye.
For sale, and I know she'd be happy to autograph it for you as well. And a portion, $3 from every book is going to go right back to you guys.
Oh,
thank you very much. Thank you. There's still lots of food and beer, and eat up and enjoy. Thank you.
You can have your snack now.
There you go.